This film is largely based on the text Homegrown Terrorism in Germany, The Case of Christian Ganczarski by Emerson Vermaat. Christian Ganczarski is one of the individuals who has been described as the head of Al-Qaida in Europe. Osama bin Laden called Christian Ganczarski his German general. His Muslim name is Ibrahim the German, or Abu Ibrahim. He was one of bin Laden's personal couriers who had direct access to Al-Qaeda's top leadership. He passed messages from Khaled Sheikh Mohammed on to Osama bin Laden, or vice versa. Khaled Sheikh Mohammed was the Al-Qaeda operative in Pakistan who planned the 9/11 operation. Allegedly, Christian Ganczarski made his living by smuggling precious stones. This is one of the more convenient methods of transferring money for black operations. Precious stones are easily concealed and transported by a person operating in the target area. Trade-offs are 50% or more loss if sold on the free market. This of course does not apply if they are sold to a friend of the movement. Ganczarski was born in Gliwice, Poland in October 1966. His German family moved to Mülheim, Germany in 1976. Germans living abroad generally are controlled, organized and guided by the German BND, the renamed Third Reich Gestapo. In 1986, Ganczarski became a Muslim. He married another Muslim convert, Nicola. Ganczarski received permission to study in Saudi Arabia in 1992. He returned to Germany in 1994 and met Mohamedou Ould-Slahi, who was in contact with radical Chechen groups and took part in the Bosnian Jihad. Slahi certainly was under surveillance of and manipulated and used by the German BND. Chechen groups fighting Russia were more or less openly supported by the German secret services, seeing the Caucasus as a German area of influence and the conflict there as a convenient tool to keep the Russians busy. Yugoslavia, like during World War II, also is a prime target of operations of the German BND. The BND had recruited many Yugoslavs as snitchers while they were working in Germany. In the early 1990s, this large net of snitchers allowed the BND to instigate hatred between the various ethnic groups. The BND also used the brainwashing techniques described on my homepage to recruit mercenaries to fight against the legitimate Yugoslav state. It is said that Ganczarski, because of his radical views, was under surveillance by the German Secret Service Verfassungsschutz long before 9/11. At one time he even found an old, no longer active bug in his car. Ould-Slahi set up an import and export company in Duisburg, which served as a cover for Al-Qaeda activities. Huge sums of Al-Qaeda money were transferred through the account of his company. Much of the money came from his brother-in-law Al-Shankiti in Sudan. His brother-in-law was involved in the preparations of the Al-Qaeda suicide bombings of the American embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998. Ould-Slahi had been involved in the Millennium Plot to blow up Los Angeles International Airport. He had traveled to Canada at the end of November 1999 to give instructions to Ahmed Ressa, who was to blow himself up in a truck loaded with explosives. The plot failed. Ould-Slahi was also in touch with Marwan el-Sheikhi, Ziad Jarrah and Ramzi bin al-Shib, three key members of the Hamburg 9/11 terror cell led by Mohammed Atta. He advised them to travel to Pakistan and Afghanistan. Bin al-Shib, Jarrah, Atta and al-Sheikhi arrived in Afghanistan at the end of 1999. Bin Laden was agreeably surprised. They were the perfect candidates for the 9/11 suicide mission. Just before Christmas 1999, the whole Ganczarski family also left Germany and traveled to Afghanistan. They were housed in Osama bin Laden's compound. Ganczarski was working in the House of Logistics, the same place where the Al-Qaeda leadership lived. His detailed knowledge of computers and telecommunication was very useful to Al-Qaida and to Osama bin Laden personally. He was employed in the Propaganda and Communications Department and also served as a courier between Osama bin Laden and Khaled Sheikh Mohammed. It was said that without Ganczarski, Osama bin Laden would have had neither internet nor telephone. A computer connected to the internet is an ideal tool to run concealed laser-based brainwashing equipment. It allows to operate laser radar, transfer the data, and receive the commands for the brainwashing equipment installed inside. As Ganczarski certainly will have used German computers, this should have allowed the BND not only to spy on Al-Qaida, but also to influence their decisions. In April 2000, Ganczarski gave a letter from Mukhtar to Osama bin Laden. The letter introduced and recommended an Australian convert named Jack Roche, who had travelled with Ganczarski from Karachi, Pakistan to Kandahar, Afghanistan. Jack Roche was to set up a terror cell in Sydney, Australia, with the aim to plan terrorist attacks. The Al-Qaida leader invited Christian and Jack to share a meal with him. Returning to Australia in June 2000, Jack Roche, or Gia Jack, planned to blow up the Israeli embassy in Canberra. He was sentenced to 9 years in June 2004. After 8 months, Ganczarski's family went back to Germany. He again travelled to Afghanistan on August 8, 2001, and returned to Germany just 1 week before the attacks of September 11, 2001. Allegedly, Ganczarski met Nisa Nawar in Afghanistan in July 2001. On April 11, 2002, Nisa Nawar, also known as Saif, ignited the explosion at the La Griba synagogue in Djerba. A few hours before the attack, Nawar called Christian Ganczarski in Duisburg. It was a rather strange call. I am safe. Who? Safe, safe. I see, welcome. How are you doing? How are you doing? Are you okay? I am fine. Praise be to God. Praise be to God. Everything is okay. May God reward you. How are you doing? Don't forget it. No. Praise be to God. Praise be to God. Praise be to God. Don't forget to include me in your prayers, to mention me in your prayers, if God wants it. If God wants it. How are you doing? Fine? Fine, fine. If God wants it. Praise be to God. Where are you? Are you here? No, I am outside. Oh yes, if God wants it. Do you need anything? No, thank you. I called you. I only need Dava. If God wants it. Thank you. Okay? Goodbye. Go in peace. Go in peace. May God's grace and blessing be with you. It was clear that Nawar wanted to get the green light for the Djerba bombing. Nia Nawar placed another phone call to one of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's cell phones. Ganczarski himself had also made a phone call to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. It was a short and silent call which lasted less than a minute. The two men did not speak. It was clear that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was the chief planner for the Djerba operation. He and Al-Qaida were deeply involved. Ganczarski was arrested on April 15, 2002, but immediately denied everything, saying he had no links whatsoever to a terror network. He was released 1 day later due to lack of evidence. German investigators and prosecutors knew that Christian Ganczarski was an Al-Qaida operative, having access to highest leadership, yet they claimed they could not detain or charge him with any crime. With all the connections to 9/11. The excuse was that the law only outlawed membership in terroristic organizations inside Germany. Al-Qaida not operating inside Germany is one of the many obvious lies of German state agencies. Al-Qaida was operating inside Germany. Germany even could be seen as a command and support center. The members of the Hamburg cell lived in Germany and prepared for 9/11. Old Sly was operating from Germany into a range of different countries. Obviously, Christian Ganczarski was being supported and protected by the German secret services. He was only arrested because Nava's phone call from a mobile phone shortly before the explosion certainly was intercepted by foreign secret services. German authorities had to react, and they tried to cover up Ganczarski's role in Al-Qaida. Also, an US agency had tried to infiltrate the Hamburg cell well before 9/11 and asked for permission at the local secret service Hamburger Landesamt für Verfassungsschutz. This permission was denied. There's a strong clue that Ganczarski had been brainwashed by the German secret services. Ganczarski, of course, knew that he had been investigated in Germany. Still, Ganczarski and Karim Mehdi were planning a terrorist attack on the French island of La Réunion. German investigators discovered that Mehdi was collecting information on a remote control system and alerted the French. Mehdi was arrested near Paris on June 1, 2003, as he planned to fly to La Réunion. He was interrogated and admitted that a group of bin Laden sympathizers in Germany planned an attack on La Réunion. A model boat loaded with explosives was to be detonated by remote control. The conspirators also wanted a suicide bomber to detonate a car bomb near a tourist hotel. During the interrogations, Mehdi claimed that he had discussed the Réunion plan with Ganczarski already in November 2002, before the latter left for Saudi Arabia. According to Karim Mehdi, Ganczarski was one of the organizers and money sources for the planned attack of the French island of La Réunion. The Saudis wanted to send Ganczarski back to Germany. They put him under house arrest in April 2003 and contacted the Germans. Allegedly, German federal prosecutor Kai Nehm did not believe he could successfully prosecute Ganczarski under existing German law. Usually the German state lets disappear people in prison, even with dodgy accusations like being member of a terrorist organization. I personally cannot remember only one contact with German state agencies in which they did not lie or otherwise disregarded the law. And there were plenty of contacts. Christian Ganczarski was known to be at least involved in the planning of 9/11 and in the Djerba attack. The French were interested in Ganczarski because 2 French citizens had died in Djerba, and there was strong indication that this man was involved in the attack. The Germans asked the Saudis to put this German citizen and his family on an Air France flight to Paris. From Paris, the Ganczarskis were then supposed to fly on to Frankfurt in a Lufthansa plane. But when the Air France plane from Riyadh landed in Paris on June 3, 2003, the French arrest team was already waiting for Christian Ganczarski. On January 5, 2009, Ganczarski was sentenced by a French court to 18 years for complicity in murder and for being a member of a terrorist organization. Obviously, Christian Ganczarski and others operating from Germany against the US was approved by and supported by the German secret services. The involvement of Old Sly in terroristic operations against Russia and Yugoslavia since the early 1990s, without reasonable doubt, was known to the German secret services, if he was not doing this under German command and control. The German BND must have undertaken major efforts to protect him. Otherwise, Old Sly would have not been able to operate in Germany during 10 years, while he was organizing and financing terrorist operations against at least 3 states, including the 2 superpowers. I guess that the BND was very busy in creating false tracks to direct the CIA and the KGB away from Old Sly. One of these false tracks is Murat Kurnas, who obviously was innocent. He was tortured by Germans in Pakistan. Then he was handed over to the Americans, who of course had proof that he was guilty, because he had been tortured by the Germans in their presence. Another more recent false track is Khaled El-Masri, who was arrested by Macedonian authorities. He was accused of being a terrorist and using a counterfeit passport. It's difficult to believe that the Macedonian authorities did not have the German embassy check the passport. The Macedonians handed al-Masri over to US authorities. After several months it turned out that the passport was genuine. During the last years al-Masri was tricked by the German state into several offenses to have him disappear in prison.